Welcome to another episode of Bookbanter, and I'm your host, Alex C. Telander. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, I'm going to be doing this one about the Lady Astronaut series by Mary Robinette Kowal. Now, the whole series technically began as a short story called The Lady Astronaut of Mars that was published in 2012. And then, I guess as the years went past, Mary worked out that she had lots more to tell in that universe, maybe built it up, maybe had it recommended by friends and other authors that she should do more with it because it was such a good story. I unfortunately have not read that story, but I've read all the books, which are great. So that maybe made her decide to start writing books in that world and develop it more. And the books are set, I believe it's 30-odd years as kind of a prequel, 30 years before the events in the short story Lady Astronaut of Mars. So the first book is called The Calculating Stars, which came out in 2018. And the book begins in 1952 when this meteorite hits the East Coast, plummets into the Earth, into the ocean, I think, and basically wipes out the eastern seaboard. Washington, D.C. is gone. Most of the East Coast is just gone. They end up moving the capital to, I believe, Kansas. And basically the whole country has changed, but also the whole world just with these events. And kind of how society learns to deal with this devastating event, how they have to stay away from that area for a while as it kind of slowly recovers from everything that happened and the lives lost. I mean, pretty much everyone in the country has someone who they knew in some way who has been lost to that devastating event. And then as scientists work this out, much like the meteorite that hit 67 million years ago with the dinosaurs, they realize that because of the size of this meteorite, it's going to have knock-on effects for the planet, and that over time, the temperature is going to go up, and eventually the planet's going to become uninhabitable. And so it's a jump start for the space race to get going so they can get as many people as possible into space, developing colonies on the moon and then other planets is the plan, and to try and get as many people surviving out in space and off the planet before it's too late. So it's kind of great from the beginning. You have this ticking clock of sorts of needing to everyone to get going. But at the same time, it's the 1950s in America where everything is very sexist. Women are seen as definitely second class to men and everything. And so you kind of get this developing space race with women wanting to play a major part in it. But because of the sexist society still in existence there, it's a very hard one. Our main character is Elma York, who is a member of the WASP, the Women Air Force Service Pilots. So she already knows how to fly. She's actually with a group of women we get to meet, and they're all pilots, really talented people, really smart people, and wants to be involved in the space race. But of course, it's a non-stop fight of small steps that eventually become bigger steps for getting women involved in this, and just making, the men in charge realize that women need to be a part of this. Not just because they're smaller and take up less room, consume less food and stuff in space, but just because they're just as talented and skilled as many of the men are. But it's a great balance between this sexism fighting and also women succeeding and getting to different positions. So the US decides they need to put a man on the moon and do it super fast. York wants to be a big part of this too, and her goal at this point, as they start launching rockets up, developing stuff, sending men into space, is to be the first woman in space, which she does become. And then the goal, as I said, is to get the first person to the moon and start developing colony stuff on the moon. And so you have that ongoing storyline there that comes to a kind of good resolution at the end. And then you have the next book that came out about, I want to say like 5 or 6 months later, the same year in 2018, called The Faded Sky, where now that we've gotten a base settled on the moon, you have Elma York, who's a main pilot doing a kind of shuttle service between the moon and Earth, bringing people up, bringing people back, because again, there's still this big rush of wanting to get as many people as they can off the planet to develop, a society if they can on the moon, to kind of live there, because Earth is slowly dying. Again, it's an ongoing fight for them trying to get positions of power, positions of importance in this society, and to make a big step for the new space race with them colonizing and settling on the moon, that women should be just as big of a part of it as men have been. And it's a chance to change the old ways and make them new ways. And then with the moon development in this book, they make a plan that they need to go to Mars. That's where they can do some long-term settling because there's more resources there, more ability. And now that they've got this kind of base on the moon, it's a good kind of jumping off point to be able to go to Mars. And the big story in this book is that York wants to go to Mars, but it's a huge decision because she's going to be away from her husband for a long time, for years at this point. She also doesn't know if she will definitely be coming back because of conditions and things going on. They haven't had kids yet. It's a lot of things she has to deal with, and it's just a lot of things about making a big decision in your life and kind of how you adapt and deal with it and weigh the different important parts of it and decide what you want to do. Another great thing about York is that she is a Jewish character, so you get to see a lot of Jewish culture in her character and how she works with other women. And again, there's nice diversity in the books. It's African American women, Asian women. It's a really fun read, and just really interesting characters all around that you care a lot about and are interested in. So the book kind of comes towards an end with Faded Sky as they're going to Mars, and I won't go in the end completely because I want to still have you interested in reading that book. And then the third book that came out just this last year in 2020 is called Relentless Moon, and that is set during the time while York is on her mission to Mars. There's another lady astronaut, Nicole Worgan, who's just one of the other WASP women who's come up in the world and become a great pilot and all this stuff, and her husband is actually an important politician running for president back on Earth while she's doing a mission to the moon. And then as she gets to the moon, there's an accident and the ship is damaged and they end up being stuck on the lunar colony there on the moon and have to try and work out how they might be able to get back. They have intermittent contact with Earth, and then it turns out there's some sort of terrorist attack going on from a weird cult down on Earth wanting to cancel the space race and keep everyone on Earth, even though I know it's going to kill everyone because their goal is just to let things be as they are and let things play out as they expected to. And so it's a great kind of gripping story of them being trapped on this lunar base where they're not sure who might be an insider with this terrorist group. And as they're there trying to survive, accidents within the base start to happen and things go wrong. And it's just a great kind of ratcheting up of tension and gives a different feel to, like, compared to the previous two books where you had different conflicts going on, different pushes and pullings, and whereas in this one you have a different storyline completely where you have kind of the I think what they call a bottle episode where they're all limited to being on this lunar base, a set number of characters, and with the resources they have there they're able to communicate with Earth and kind of learn what they need to do, but again it's intermittent contact with issues going on. And at the same time, with Worgan, you have her husband back on Earth who's running for president and dealing with his own hardships there. So it's another great book. This one was twice the size of the first two books, which was a lot of fun because it was just totally enveloping and involving and sucks you right into the beginning. So that's the three books that are out so far. There are more coming, thankfully. And it's just a really great series for women characters, for diverse characters, for conflicts and overcoming those conflicts. Just a great fresh voice in science fiction that I would recommend to anyone as a great go-to kind of space novel, space series if you want to get into that. So again, the first book is Calculating Stars, followed by Faded Sky, and you have Relentless Moon. And they're all out in paperback now, or you can get them on ebook or request them from your library. That's about it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And I think on the next one, I did a little more recording with my friend Chris Fletcher, and we talked about more Stephen King stuff, actually specifically Stephen King adaptations that were recently done. So the next few episodes will probably be about that and various Stephen King projects that have come out over the last few years. So stay tuned for that. I did want to mention too that usually this show, Bookbanter, was coming out every 2 weeks, but it's a lot on my schedule with everything else I've got going on, my other shows and various other things going on right now, not to mention the pandemic. And so I'm going to be switching to once a month release for Bookbanter. So that will be coming out. I'm planning to have it come out on the 15th of every month. So look for the next episode of Bookbanter to come out on February 15th. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you then. Thank you for listening to Bookbanter. The episode was performed and recorded by me, Alex C. Telander, with help from Hale and Wilmot Podcasts. The music featured in this episode is the Violin Concerto in D by Ludwig van Beethoven. The theme song is From Fantasia on a Theme by Thomas Tallis, composed by Ralph Vaughan Williams, all courtesy of Musopen. Find out more at musopen.org. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, you can do so by buying me a coffee at coffee.com/AlexCTelander. You can reach me at alexctelander@gmail.com with any comments, questions, or suggestions, or just a chat. Or find me on Twitter under the username @Bookbanter. Until next time, thanks for listening.